Something unique for race 5 in the chase for the Sprint Cup, the only night race. This one in the sport's hometown, Charlotte. At the end of 500 hard-fought miles, though, it was more of the same. The 48 car in victory lane.
The white flag is out. It means one more lap to go for Jimmie Johnson. It's also the white flag of surrender for everybody else.
Jimmie Johnson can do no wrong.
For Jimmie Johnson, it's his 3rd win in the chase, his 6th win this season, the 6th time he will take the checkered flag at Lowe's Motor Speedway. He also drives away from the competition in the chase for the Sprint Cup Championship.
We just completed the biggest goal of my life, just so you know. Perfect weekend, dude. Fastest in qualifying every practice session and won the race.
Jimmie Johnson gets the win.
Jimmie Johnson scored that record-tying 6th win at Charlotte, making it 3 for 5 in chase races so far this year. Those closest to Jimmie in points going into that race all had less than stellar nights, so Jimmie opened a 90-point gap on the pack in the standings. We'll look at those standing stumbles and just how hard-fought that victory was with our Monday Roundtable panel next on NASCAR Now.
NASCAR Now is presented by the Home Depot.
And from the Home Depot Garage Studios, we welcome you to the not stepping up, but stepping back edition of the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. We talked on Saturday before the start of the race about who was going to step up and stand in the way of Jimmie Johnson's momentum in this chase. And instead, all of his closest pursuers took a pretty healthy step back on Saturday night. That and a very hard-fought victory for Jimmie, reviewed with our roundtable panel, Ray Evernham, Marty Smith, and Ricky Craven. All right, who'll admit it? When Jeff Gordon took the lead from Jimmie Johnson late in that race, you went, ooh, we might have something here.
I'll admit it.
He's shaking his head no.
I thought maybe.
I didn't.
Yeah.
My presumption was Johnson would do exactly what he did.
Yeah, I thought so. I even reached out to Jimmie today to ask him, and he thought so for a brief second, but then he said he caught his breath and went back after it.
Hey, man, I was looking for the rainbow paint. It looked familiar to see him get going on 2 tires like that. I was hoping it was for real.
All right, well, let's begin our roundtable discussion with the perfect weekend for the 48 team. Let's see, Jimmie Johnson was fastest in practice Thursday. He won the pole for the race Thursday night in qualifying. He was fastest in the 2 practice sessions on Friday. And then he took the green flag and didn't lead a whole lot of the race for a while. Jimmie led a pretty good bit of the opening 70 laps, but then didn't lead from lap 70 to lap 292. It was the final pit stop here where Johnson got the top spot back, barely. Edging Casey Kane at the scoring line. From there, Jimmie got away from Casey Kane on 2 restarts. And then Jeff Gordon on 1 of 2 more, but it was the second of those 2 restarts where Gordon gave us all that minute to say, ooh.
He did, and he also did what he should have done to win the race and move up a groove and take that lane away from Jimmie Johnson, but even that wasn't enough.
Gordon stayed outside of Jimmie for 2 laps and actually wrestled the lead away, but Jimmie went back by him and drove away, scoring his 3rd victory in 5 chase races. Yup, it was the 48 again.
You know, Chad and the guys just kept working on things. In that last stop, we had the car where it needed to be. I mean, it was good on the short run, and it held on over the 39 laps. I guess we had those tires on the car. Granted, we had some cautions, but we got it right when it counted. We had a great pit stop at the end. They got us up front, and you know, that was really the deal there.
It was a great weekend. It was fantastic. You know, Jimmie did a fantastic job tonight, really breaking down what the car was doing. We were fortunate that the second to last run, the long green flag run, we had gotten the car pretty close at that point. We were a little faster than the 9 car. But shoot, he had a 7-second lead at that point. There's no way we were going to overcome that and try to be able to catch him in this last 50 laps. But when the caution came out, we were real optimistic. If we had a decent pit stop, we'd have something for him because our car was really good on the short run and panned out.
If you think that you've arrived in your championship material and you're going to do it, and you don't try to work harder. I mean, I know for a fact that Jimmie trains for this chase in a different way that he trains during the year. I mean, the dedication that he has, and Chad, the dedication he has staying at the shop till 11 at night. I mean, you got to want it and you got to want it really bad.
But Jimmy Johnson's 6th victory at Lowe's Motor Speedway tied him with Darrell Waltrip and Bobby Allison for the most by any driver. Jimmy's 6 wins coming in only 17 starts, while Waltrip's came in 34 tries and Allison's in 36. That's just how good Jimmy Johnson has been at his house. So let's start with key to the race. Agree or disagree? Staying with it. They didn't have the best car all night.
No, and that comes from experience. You know, Charlotte is a funny racetrack, and Chad and Jimmy have run there enough to know that it starts one way and it changes throughout the night, and you've got to keep up with it. They didn't panic when that started to happen. They had fun with it. They knew the track was going to come back to them. They've won there enough.
Yeah, these smooth surfaces, Ray, it's been my experience. It's very hard to feel the racetrack, particularly when you're going this fast, and it's even more difficult when you get in traffic, obvious. But the feedback he gives is so specific, it does allow Chad to break it down, and you can appreciate that because you had a guy that could do the same thing.
The respect for one another has grown so much, too. I mean, it's just at the optimum level at this point. There was a time there when they did start to back up 4th, 5th in the running order, and Chad came over the radio and just reminded Jimmy, you're backing up. And Jimmy said, don't make me come down pit road and unbuckle and strangle you. So they definitely have built that relationship that you shut up, I'm going to drive, you crew chief.
That was a fun exchange, by the way. The money stop. Every crew has an opportunity to help or hurt their driver on that critical last pit stop. Casey Kane's crew did a fine job on their last pit stop, but just that much made a difference.
Hey, we've been saying all year that pit road is going to make a huge difference, and now we're having photo finishes coming off pit road. I'd say that's close enough.
And people don't talk about the pole position earning you any points, but it does in that case when you think you get the first pick, and that first pick was worth a lot.
There you go. Dave Burns told a story during Saturday night's race about Chad Knaus's auditions. They needed a rear tire changer, and he went through some people during the week. And to paraphrase Dave's story, the guy that they picked was the guy that made the least mistakes during the audition. Well, how difficult is it for a guy to step in and do a really great job under those conditions? And yet he did. Their pit stops all night really were excellent.
Oh, I've never done it. But I can assure you that when you go to a 3-time champion and you're sort of the new guy in the equation, there's a lot of pressure, and I think that they might have found somebody they can keep.
Well, it's not like being in a sports game where you pretty much cover your position. This is part of being choreography. This is like, it's a pit stop, but it's like being a dance troupe. You have to be in the right spot at exactly the right step at the right time. There's air hoses and gas cans and people crossing. It's amazing that they didn't have any problem, and they were able to do it that fast.
And you know, the tendency, we always hear people talk about slow down to go fast, right? And the tendency is you get out there, and I'm part of the 48 crew now, and I'm going to go, and make a mistake.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things when guys are coming down pit road. So many times I hear crew chiefs make a mistake. Oh, we got to have a good one, guys. We got to have a good one. That's the worst thing you can do. The guys that are saying, all right, now, nice and easy. Take a deep breath, just like practice. Everybody relax. Those are the guys that are going to be fast because your fastest pit stops are going to look like they're going slow.
This guy may have been the best guy on pit road, but he had to swallow his pride and acclimate himself to what they were doing, right? Because he's the new guy, and every one of those groups of guys has a little bit different approach. They always wanted me to lock the brakes up for the last 6 feet. Why? So they could see that, identify that first lug nut. But the little things that separate these teams and their philosophies, he had to adapt to that, their philosophy.
That's probably the most pressure-packed moment in racing, is that last stop for that individual, those tire changers, and especially him. Because as you guys stated, he is the new guy, and if he was the person that screwed up, he's losing his job.
A very small thing that could have become a very big thing. About 218 laps into the 334-lap race, there's some junk on the grill of the 48 car. Not all that unusual, but Jimmy uses the then lap car of Juan Pablo Montoya, and watch it go away. Small things make a big difference.
Yeah, the way that happens is the pressure. A piece of paper on the front of your car has the air pushing it on the front, and it's pressure. As you get up behind the car in front of you, it not only takes some of that pressure away so it's not pushing the paper, but you pick up all that turbulence that's coming out from underneath that other car, and boom, blow that paper right off every time.
Keep the engine from melting down. Now let's talk about the restarts. Jimmy had to get away from Casey Kane twice and Jeff Gordon twice on late restarts to hang on to this lead and hang on to this win. Why was he so successful in getting away from the 9 car, first of all?
Well, Casey struggled a little bit on some restarts. Second gear or something with the Dodge combination, I don't know. He was either spinning the tires or the thing just wouldn't accelerate as fast as he wanted it to. But he seemed to be off on most of the restarts.
He actually said after the race that he was spinning the tires, that he was actually trying to manipulate the throttle in a different way so he wouldn't do so, but he could not help it. and that did mark his demise.
Makes it look like horsepower, doesn't it? But you've heard me describe this before. On a 1.5 mile track, the most important part of the equation, second gear. That's where you have the most torque, the most acceleration. It's the easiest time to spin the tires. And when you lose a restart and you line up 15 laps later for another one, it can get in your head, because when you're experimenting late in the race, well, it's the wrong time of the day to be experimenting.
So why was the 24 able to hang with him on that last time?
I really think that Ray could speak to that, and the reason why is because I'm shuffling off to you here, but you know, there are times when a driver just can't get it, and that comes down to shock, spring, something being just not allowing for a quick start.
You're right, Ricky. It does have sometimes things to do with your chassis setup, your tire pressure, you know, and that start that's in question. Jeff Gordon had 2 tires in that start where Jimmy Johnson had 4, so it might have been a tire pressure thing. Jeff already had some heat in his left rear tires, you know, was able to get him going. And I can tell you that, you know, at that time, Gordon, 4-time champion, many of those restarts said, all right, Johnson, buddy, you're my pal, but I'm going to keep you honest on this one.
Yeah. It was an interesting night. I thought it was a very competitive race, and we've got a lot more stories still to talk about from Saturday night's Charlotte 500-miler. First, though, our Sports Nation poll question today. Do you want Jimmy Johnson to win his 4th straight Sprint Cup championship? Go to the ESPN.com NASCAR page, vote yes or no. This has certainly been a big topic of discussion among race fans all weekend. We'll talk about it later in the show. Also coming up later in the show, it's Martinsville for race 6 in the chase. How much mechanical mayhem can one little track cause? We'll talk about it in a bit. And those who came closest to keeping the 48 out of victory lane Saturday night, Gordon, Kane, and Kenseth in that great last laps fight. More on that in just a moment. But first, the Charlotte calamity for those closest to the champ in the chase and how much the gap grew. That's next on NASCAR Now.
NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And Crown Royal Blended Canadian Whiskey. For every king, a crown. Please drink responsibly.
We asked before the race Saturday who was going to step up and stand in Jimmy Johnson's way. Well, those closest in points going in all had pretty lousy nights. Mark Martin started 2nd, lost track position to others' 2-tire strategies on the first pit stop here at lap 36. So Mark slides back when a lot of other people went just for right side tires, and they went for 4. Then on the restart at lap 125, there was a big jam that damaged the nose of his car. The handling problems forced Mark back at lap 228. He went a lap down. He eventually got that back, but Martin finished 17th, losing 78 points. Juan Pablo Montoya was running 4th before others' pit strategy shuffled him back in the pack, putting him in position to sustain right rear damage in that same lap 125 accordion on the restart. He slid back from 13th to 30th with that damage. He was put a lap down by leader Jeff Gordon then at lap 147. Here is Montoya going a lap down, Gordon going by. So Montoya's crew needs a caution to fix the damage, right? Well, he was the caution when he spun in turns 3 and 4. Bringing out the yellow, his crews made repairs out of the yellow, but by the time Juan Pablo got going here, he went a 2nd lap down. An attempt to use a wave around to get a lap back didn't work. Montoya wound up 35th, losing 137 points on the night. The repair they had there, blue-eyed, just a bad night around for the 42 team.
I mean, it's what it is, and just gotta move on. You know, everybody in this, you know, this Lysol car today was pretty impressive. You know, we had probably one of the fastest cars, and not much we can do. You know, we worked as hard as we could. We did all what we thought was possible, and here we go. You know, today the best we could do was 35th. If you're expecting to have 10 clean races, then you're dreaming. You know, we knew it could happen, and here always the restarts are an issue, and we're, you know, I managed to slow down, and I just got run from behind, and it happens. You know, we had a faster car than the 48, so it happens. It's one of those racing things that will happen, and just got to move on.
And Tony Stewart started 5th, but slid back in the opening 100 miles, was running 18th by lap 60 with a loose race car. A couple times the team tried things to get back track position. They took 2 tires once, they pitted under the yellow at another time, and others didn't, and resolved a 13th place finish and a loss of 71 points to the lead for Tony Stewart. Start talking about Mark Martin's team. They had that hole in the nose on the lap 125 jam and did not repair it at their first couple of opportunities. It's easy to second guess, but we'll second guess. Right call, wrong call?
Well, for second get today, it's the wrong call. That night,
That's the
there's a
easy
lot
part.
going on. And, Alan Gustafson's done a great job all year. It's hard to know how much that's affecting your car. It's feedback from the driver, whether there's a lot going on. The track is changing. You want to give up track position. At that time, they had gone backwards because of everybody else that did two-tire stop. They hadn't got a chance to adjust it, so might not have thought it was going to affect it that much.
Don't you also, you would know this better than me, Ray, but wouldn't putting that huge patch on the grill affect the motor too? I mean, couldn't you make the motor too hot?
You could, but I saw guys putting tape on all night. As the night went on, they were putting tape and tape and tape. I think that's why little bits of debris were making such a huge difference. But that's a good point, Marty.
You mentioned the feedback from the driver. Again, fast, smooth racetracks, if the car's out of balance, it's very difficult to give that feedback. The drivers, every week, part of their job, am I compromising the right front or the right rear? They have to give detailed information. I'm losing the front, or I'm chattering the right rear a little bit. But I tell you, folks, when the car is out of balance, drivers can't push it that hard to give good feedback. And I heard Alan Gustafson say midway through the race, Mark, we haven't made big changes all night. We need to make big changes. And I could sort of sense that Mark couldn't give that, that feedback to make that big change.
Well, when you do have an aerodynamic issue like that and something is different, that car acts very differently depending on where it is on the racetrack in reference to other cars. So sometimes it's a very hard problem to diagnose.
Montoya's reaction was shocking to me. He was shockingly diplomatic. When I went over there and I asked him, is this worst case scenario, I fully expected him to either A, go off on me, or B, say, yes, this is worst case scenario. And what he said was, no, this happens. It's the way racing goes. We've had a great chase so far. Are we happy about it? No, but it happens. I was surprised by that.
He was asking about pitting before the caution came out because the car was not what it needed to be, and he ended up being the caution. Again, easy to second guess, but that decision when the driver's saying one thing and you're looking at the race strategy from on top of the pit box, that's got to be a grind.
Well, as a crew chief, what you're really doing, you're listening to the driver, and Ricky can not hit me from here. Maybe he can hit me, but they get excited. So you've got to decide. You're watching your lap times and you got to see if you can calm that guy down. But if that car is losing just a ton of lap times and he's going to get lapped anyway, and he's screaming, and again, with the help of TV, you can see pretty much how your car is. So, if those lap times drop and that guy is screaming, something's going to happen if you don't get him in, and then obviously it did.
And it feels like the end of the world. And you're exactly right, Ray, because from the driver's seat, you're so narrow-minded. It's not about the other 42 cars. It's about what you're feeling, and it's awful. And you're about to lose a lap, and that you're going to probably lose the championship, and all those emotions are being carried through the radio, unfortunately. Why the drivers push that mic, I don't know, but sometimes we feel we have to.
Though they'd never admit it, I think there's another dynamic at play here, too. There's so much pressure involved in this chase. I think these guys are afraid to lose it instead of going out to win it sometimes. And if you bring a guy down pit road under green, who knows what might happen. So maybe stay out and pray for a caution. I don't know if they admit it, but that dynamic's in play.
Are you referring to the crew chief or the driver? Because,
everybody.
Well, the entire team. And the only part I disagree with is nothing I've seen from Montoya yet suggests he's afraid to lose it. He doesn't care.
And I can tell you what Brian Patty's looking at, thinking under green, there is no way he could fix that thing under green without losing 5 laps. Yeah. And 5 laps at that point was going to put him out.
And that goes right back into what I'm saying. Do you bring him down? No. Do you let him wreck? No. But he wrecked.
Yeah.
The way it happened. And I'm not sure exactly what to say about Tony Stewart's night other than just wasn't there. It just wasn't there for them.
No, surprising because, Darian Grubb has been good there. Obviously, Tony's been good there, and they were just a little bit off all night. Just not a great race car.
We haven't talked about it, but we've got to because it's magnified with speeds, and that's the clean air syndrome. And, Tony took 2 tires at Kansas, got out to the front, and looked like a different car. He didn't have that opportunity this week, so we never really knew if that might have been the difference.
So if you look at the 3 closest to Jimmy Johnson going into the Charlotte race and how many points they are behind now, Martin lost 78, Montoya lost 137, Stewart lost 71, and we may look back on that Charlotte race as the night the closest chase in history was blown wide open by the struggles of those 3 drivers. Still to come, those who gave Johnson a stiff challenge for the win, including Denny Hamlin, class of the field, but not around for the checkered flag. And Gordon, Kane, and Kenseth, who all spent time out in front and fought the 48 right to the finish. We talk about them when NASCAR Now continues.
You're watching NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
All right, let's talk about those who came closest to beating the 48 Saturday. Jeff Gordon led 64 laps on the night. His team went for only right side tires on the final pit stop at lap 292. The second time in the race they did it after getting by Kasey Kahne for second on that restart. Gordon got by Jimmie Johnson on the last restart. We saw that a little bit earlier, but couldn't stay in front of him. He tried, though. He sure tried.
Well, Jeff had 2 tires on. Jimmie had 4, but every week Jeff gets a little bit stronger, and he's keeping Jimmie honest.
All you really want to do is get maximum points and finish ahead of the guys you're racing in the points. And other than Jimmie, we're doing that. So those guys are on an incredible roll. But I'm really excited about the effort that this team has put out these last 3 weeks, especially. But through the whole chase, we just never quit fighting. We put 2 tires on. That's the only thing. That was a great call by Steve. I think Steve called this race perfectly tonight. And we gave it a shot. I mean, I couldn't believe I even got the lead. I got a great restart. Was able to get by Jimmie when he got loose, and we were racing really hard. And I knew it was just a matter of time for my 2 tires to give up, and it did. But we fought hard there with Joey Logano too. That was a lot of fun for 4th.
Kasey Kahne had a dominant car for much of the race's final 200 miles, taking the point for the first time at lap 223 of 334, and building up a lead of better than 4 seconds. Before caution weighed for Max Pappas' engine failure, Kasey, as we documented before, barely lost the lead to Jimmie Johnson on the stop, and then couldn't hang with him on a couple of restarts, and then his pace was slowed even more in the late going.
Indeed it was. Not getting out first on that pit stop really hurt them, and in speaking with Kasey after the race, he was so dejected that they didn't get it done. He really wanted to beat Jimmie on Saturday night.
It's disappointing to lose to the 48, but those guys are strong every week, and we had a great car tonight. Jimmie's, he's going to probably gain points all year, so I don't know. Those guys are just strong. Jimmie's strong. They're the best team here, the best driver here, and they're going to keep winning until somebody steps up and stops them.
And Matt Kenseth also had a stellar run. His team used strategy to get the lead a couple of times, taking right side tires only on the first pit stop, lap 36, and again at lap 190. Matt passed Kahne for second with 4 laps to go for a very solid runner-up finish.
Our run was really good. All our guys did a good job on pit road. That was the fastest car we've had in a long time. We qualified exceptionally well for us. We were able to keep our track position all night, and we were just able to make real little adjustments. But I was really happy with my car all night. I mean, I wasn't fast enough to beat the 48, and Kasey in a long run was a good bit better than us at times. But we had a really good car, and we got the best we could out of it. It feels good for us to run up front. It's a good confidence booster for myself and for the team.
All right, we already talked about the difference between the 9, the 24, and the 48 on those late restarts, so I want to move past that. What about the 2-tire strategies used by the 17 and the 24? Interesting to me that on the final pit stop, the 17 went for 4 tires and the 24, 2.
Well, again, everybody knows how their cars are and how long you're on those left sides and just how hard you've got to run. Matt might have figured, look, I need to run hard and our left sides have been on too long. And Jeff might have thought that it was their only shot to get by Jimmie Johnson and hope that maybe a caution came out, because on short runs, 2 tires will hold you.
Kasey Kahne, solid night, a night they needed. They had some issues, though, in that final run that you mentioned before that we didn't find out about till after the race.
Yeah, and speaking with Kasey, Allen, he told me they had a couple of lug nuts loose on that last pit stop. And he said that when he was driving as hard as he could, and his teeth were about to chatter out of his head. He had such a bad vibration. So for him to finish 3rd is an impressive run, given that.
You go back to what I talked about 5 minutes ago, and that these guys have sensors in their bodies. They feel this car. They're either driving off the right front, the right rear. When you pick up a vibration like Marty just described, it's impossible to give feedback, and it's impossible to run on the edge because you can't find the edge.
And a loose wheel, as that tire is vibrating and moving, will make that tire give up. So if you have a loose right rear, you'll be loose. If you have a loose right front, you're going to be tight. So a loose wheel will make that end of the car give up.
Back to Jeff Gordon for just a second. Steve Letarte talked about how Jeff and Jimmie Johnson drive differently and can't use the same setup. Any insight into how they drive differently or the difference in the feel the two like?
I actually spoke to Jimmie about this morning, and he told me the difference is this. Jeff likes to drive the car with the steering wheel. Jimmie likes to drive the car with the throttle pedal. And I found that really interesting. He said Jeff likes to jam it down in the corner and jerk on the wheel through the corner, whereas Jimmie said he likes to drive it with the throttle more.
Yeah,
I guess that's part of his dirt background.
Yeah, I know, Jeff always liked to have what he would call leading the right front, and he would go down there and lean on it. But I can tell you, there's a lot of these new guys, and with that COT, they're sideways. Those guys that are driving that thing with the pedal is much more unnerving than driving it with a steering wheel.
And I really believe that Mark Martin sort of correlates with Jimmy Johnson. There's no question in my mind that Jimmy Johnson and Mark Martin could work together and maybe share some of the same information, and they've both been awfully fast this year.
I spoke with Jeff Burton this morning as well, and he said something to me that was pretty interesting too. He said when he's in the car, drivers can tell when another driver picks up the throttle. And he said Jimmy's use of the throttle is so different than anyone else's. He gets back to the gas so much faster than any of the other drivers on the track that he marvels at it.
And maybe that explains why all those guys came close but could not beat the 48 on Saturday night. Next topic, those who gave Jimmy a run and weren't really around for the finish. Denny Hamlin looked like a rocket. He moved up to take the lead from Jimmy at lap 71, drove away, was leading at a caution for debris, but he made a pit stop and then quickly returned with a 6-sounding engine, and the hood went up and the car went to the garage, and Denny Hamlin finished in 42nd position. He was just one of Chase drivers who had disasters on Saturday. Brian Vickers got caught in that same restart jam that damaged Montoya and Martin's cars, so he had to pit for a bad tire rub that put him a couple laps down. They could never make the laps up. Vickers finished 34th. And Carl Edwards, what a miserable night. A loose wheel, bad handling already had him down in 34th place when the engine failed in his car inside the final 50 miles, something he called a mercy killing. Carl finished in 39th position. Bad night for all, perhaps Hamlin the most.
Just a tough night for everyone at FedEx. We've just had a rough couple weeks. The driver made a mistake last week and caused us, and then this week just parts failure. And it's the best I've ever ran at this racetrack. Had a shot to win it. Felt like I was being so patient right there behind those guys and not trying to push it and not show everything I had until the very end. But Mike and the guys did a great job providing me a race-winning car.
You look at the night that 11 had, the 42. I mean, this is auto racing. There's 1,000 things have to go right, and any one of them goes wrong, and tonight's bad. We had about 4 things go wrong tonight, and luckily they all happened in one night. If we can get that out of the way, I guess that's good.
What sucks about this point system is, you can run your tail off for 24 weeks and it just doesn't matter. You're going to base all your performance off of 10 weeks and one bad week, and especially the way those other guys are performing. You can just step it up in the last 10 like they have done. If you have one bad week, whether because of a driver mistake or a parts failure, you're done. Your season's over with. And, it just, that part of it's frustrating.
Interesting listening to Denny Hamlin there, perspective. It truly is in any sport with a playoff system. People think that way. How you do in the playoffs is your whole season, let alone that you made the playoffs. Example, I keep hearing Boston Red Sox fans talk about what a miserable year it was. Well, wait a minute, you made it to the Final Four. Yeah, but we got swept out in the first round of the playoffs. I guess it's all about expectations, huh?
It is about expectations, and I think that to that point, you look at the chase beginning, the 2 drivers that had the most momentum, Brian Vickers, Denny Hamlin, and that's what you build expectations on, right? I mean, these guys over the 6 or 8 races leading up to the playoffs were dynamic. I mean, they were awesome, and it just didn't carry through. And I think, Denny Hamlin not winning a playoff race yet, a chase race, is also weighing on him because he's run so well and gotten nothing for it.
Well, to me, the consummate example of this point system being frustrating is Jeff Gordon. Yeah, he came out slow with a bad run in New Hampshire, but since that time, he's finished no worse than 6th, and he's lost ground every single week to Jimmy Johnson. I'd pull my hair out.
But he's gotten better, hasn't he? And that's the tough part. He's gotten better as the race.
But is that the point system, or is the 48 just that good? I mean, look at it. Think, and I understand Denny's frustration, but it wouldn't be any different if he had 2 or 3 bad races by the old point system. He'd still be in the same hole. The chase actually got him closer to having a shot at winning that championship than if he was on the old point system. Granted, he has had trouble in the chase, but still, this got him a closer shot than he would have if we were on the old point system.
And then there's the Jimmy Johnson philosophy. When you have 395-point days, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. This stat's insane to me. 17 chase wins in 55 starts. Yeah. The next closest driver, 6.
Yeah. incredible. So some frustrated guys with some bad results on Saturday night in Charlotte, which certainly hurt them in NASCAR's playoffs. Coming up, champion Chad Knaus joins us for a couple of minutes on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. The only night race in the chase for the Sprint Cup brings those would-be champions to the sport's home track, the Lowe's Motor Speedway, where race 5 in the chase is set to unfold.
I know you don't know it, but it's cold out. I mean cold. But it's nice and warm inside that race car. It's better than certainly where you're at. 334 laps. Do the best we can. Hopefully it'll be good enough to win it. Green flag, green flag.
They are sprinting across the start-finish line, still side by side.
Awesome job on that start, bud. Thank you. Surprised you would side draft me that hard. That's not like them. That's as loose as I want to drive it, to be honest. Where's your track for? Whatever you want. You can make the call. Need to blame it on somebody. 3097, pick up 210, sir. I will come down pit road and strangle you if you're going to be like this. I was trying to tell you did a good job.
He's just falling on his face all of a sudden. 10-4, I'm with you, bud. You're doing good with it, though.
Trouble off turn 2.
Caution's out.
10-4, let's throw some more yellows so we can pass by everybody. We stuck! They're making an adjustment!
Jeff Gordon and Craig Biffle on the front row as they come down for the restart.
No, green. Come on.
Montoya's got some damage.
Do you think if I hit the fence I can fix it? No, we'll run a risk of cutting the tires. I don't want to see what happens if I spin out of curve.
Casey Kane is the new leader as he sweeps around Matt Kenseth.
A big lead, man. Nice and easy.
Trouble up in turn 4. Juan Pablo Montoya had trouble just a lap ago.
99 cars got trouble smoking here on the front straightaway.
This was a horrible day on my part for what I did for my job. Pit road's open. Put 4 tires on it here, Casey. No miracles, boys. Just nice, steady, and smooth.
Pit road will erupt with activity here.
The right side. Go. All out. Oh, you got him, baby. You got him.
Jimmy Johnson won the race off over Casey Kane.
That's close, but he got you barely.
Restart here. There you see the 24 pushing the 48.
You're saving me right now, man. You're making my decision look good.
Casey Kane was a little faster than Jimmy Johnson the last lap, but does he have enough time?
Hang in there, do the best you can with it. Oh, yeah. They're by 5. You've got to be kidding me. Woo!
It's his 3rd win in the chase, his 6th win this season as Jimmy Johnson drives to victory tonight.
Absolutely fantastic effort, Jimmy. Absolutely fantastic.
Some leftover notes from Charlotte worth a look. It was the first time in Denny Hamlin's Sprint Cup career that he's failed to finish back-to-back races. Martin Truex Jr. scored his first top 10 since Darlington back in May. And Joey Logano's 5th place result, his best showing since winning New Hampshire back in late June. Logano had to rally back from 31st after overshooting his pit stall on the first stop. So you heard earlier in the program Chad Knaus' reaction after Jimmy Johnson took the checkered flag, something to the effect of the perfect weekend being a dream of his. Chad Knaus joins us now by telephone to talk about their victory on Saturday night. Chad, thanks for the time. Tell us about this. Well, the first a lot of us were hearing of this was this weekend, this long-standing goal apparently.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't brought it up, I'll be honest with you, because people are making a bigger deal than what it is. But it's something that I've always wanted to do. And, you know, see, what the deal is, Alan, is I keep a notebook of every race. And in those, you get your sheets, the printouts from NASCAR of who was fastest in qualifying, who was fastest in practice, and who won the race, and so on and so forth. And, you know, when you flip through those pages, I just always wanted to have my team be the first one at the top of each one of those sheets. It's just been a goal of mine that I've always wanted to do, and we've come close a few times, but had never been able to pull it off until this weekend at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
Hey, Chad, Ricky Craven, congratulations.
Thanks.
Chad, I know it was a perfect weekend, but it sure didn't look that way early. You guys had to make some adjustments. And my curiosity, because I couldn't see it during the race, how big were those adjustments? Because you got it right at the end.
Yeah, they were pretty significant, Ricky. We had a couple runs there where we got the car pretty far off, and it was almost by design because we had to work a car out of one area and adjust back the other way, and we didn't want to take too much time during the pit stops. So we were messing with the wedge and the panel bar and some significant air pressure adjustments to get the car right. And the second to last run, the car was really, really good, and Jimmy was able to drive up and pass and then get up into second place. But unfortunately, the 9 car had like a 7-second lead at that point, and there was only 48 laps to go or 49 laps to go at that point. So we knew there was no way we were going to catch him unless we got a caution. And fortunately enough for us, but unfortunately for Max Pappas, they lost an engine and the caution came out.
Chad, Marty Smith, congratulations. It seemed that the 48 was untouchable in the short run. 7 to 8 laps, you guys were in your own league. Therefore, how important was that last bit of restarts, those several restarts that ended the race?
Well, if our car was handling the same way it was during the beginning of the race, I think it would have really hurt it, or would have been really, really important. But the way that we had the car running towards the end of the race, it was going a lot better. We could run 45 laps real competitive with the guys that were running up front and working our way back up towards the front. So it just took us a while to get it there. But I'll tell you what, man, those guys were flying at the end of the race. We ran some laps that were close to qualifying speeds there towards the end of the event, and it was pretty fantastic how fast those cars were going.
Chad, this is Ray. Hey, just let me welcome you to Monday night ESPN's version of the Jimmy and Chad show, because you guys are on here more than the rest of us. So congratulations, bud.
Thanks.
Hey, I have said since the beginning of the year, I thought I might have used the word sandbagger, that you guys had some reserve and that you were saving it until the chase, that either you were luring your competition into a little bit of complacency or you were trying not to burn out. Is there a new strategy to survive the first 26 weeks and then save what you have for that chase?
Well, I think we take a different approach, Ray, and we have. And the reason that we have is because the first year of the chase, we went through and we pushed extremely, extremely hard. And by the time we got to the chase, we were spanked. And there was just nothing left to give. We were gassed out, And since that time, we've taken a different approach. We've circulated cars a little bit more often. We've brought in new cars to run early on in the season, so we were bringing in cars into the chase that we have a history with. We try to keep our guys relatively fresh. There's a lot of things that we do that we feel like we've learned to help us, but look, it all boils down to this. It's just performance, and when it's time to go, you got to go. And I feel like that Jimmy steps up when it's time to go. I feel like my team steps up when it's time to go, and we give it everything that we've got. And if it's a reason that we're able to give a little bit more is because our guys are a little fresher, or we're bringing better race cars or newer race cars, then maybe that is it.
Chad, last question from me. You've got 5 weeks to go. You've set such a terrific pace so far. How do you keep your guys on this kind of an edge for another 5 races?
Honestly, it's pretty easy, Alan, because we operate a little bit differently than most guys. When the race was over at Lowe's Motor Speedway, unfortunately, the race was over, and we're focused on how we're going to practice and qualify at Martinsville. And our guys are self-motivated. They want to go and win the practice sessions. They want to be the fastest in qualifying. They want to be the fastest in the race practices, and they want to win each race. And that's how our guys basically put the blinders on. There's always somebody faster than you in the practice sessions or in qualifying, or somebody you're racing against. So the competition's always there, and as long as we have that competition, I don't think the complacency will ever arrive on our team.
Chad, thanks for the time. Congratulations on win number 3 in the chase. We'll see you in Martinsville.
Guys, thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Chad Knaus, winning crew chief, champion crew chief, joining us by telephone. Still to come on the Monday Roundtable, why NASCAR's smallest track may be one of its toughest, what it takes to master Martinsville in a few minutes. But first, we'll discuss the topic I just asked Chad about. Give Jimmy the cup now or not? Our panel makes the case for and against.
You're watching NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
Here's our Sports Nation poll question. Do you want Jimmy Johnson to win his 4th straight Cup championship? You said 64-36. No, yes. Actually, that's closer than I thought it would be, to tell you the truth, based on how I've heard some NASCAR fans talking about it the last couple of weeks. All right, so Jimmy Johnson's won 3 of the 5 chase races so far, and a lot of people want to hand him the trophy right now. In our Hot Laps topics of the week, let's start with this one. Make a case for or against, or both, is the chase over now? You first.
Can I make it for and against?
Sure.
Because, that's what the chase is about. Right now, for, you are seeing the best team in motorsports, the best team that we've had in a long time, performing at 100% of their ability and getting it done. They're leading the thing. If they don't falter, nobody's going to beat them. On the against, you know what? It's still racing. It's still competitive. We're going to Martinsville. We're going to Talladega. A flat tire, a wreck, anything. The way the point system is right now can take 150 points away from Jimmy Johnson in a heartbeat. So I say both ways.
It's over. Hand it to him. This is the best driver in the world right now, the best crew chief in the world right now, the best team in the world right now, and they have no weakness. Now, Ray made the one point that has to be made is Talladega, Alabama, because it's not in their control. Martinsville, Virginia, they're the best team there is at Martinsville. The only track Johnson hasn't won on in the last 5 is Homestead. They're awesome at Phoenix. He's going to be good at Texas. Give it over.
Yeah, the part that they can't control is always a risk, but the part they can control, they have complete command of. And I watched the transition from Dale Earnhardt Sr. to Jeff Gordon, then from Jeff Gordon to Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart to Jimmy Johnson. In each case, someone came along who wanted it worse. Now, no disrespect to Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, and Mark Martin, because they're awesome, but I hadn't seen anybody step up and take it from Jimmy Johnson. And until we see that, why wouldn't you say that it's over?
Junior Johnson made a really interesting point recently when talking about Jimmy Johnson. There were all these stats compiled by Ryan McGee of ESPN about where Jimmy Johnson ranks in the hierarchy of the all-time driving corps. Junior Johnson looked at it and tossed it aside and said, forget all those numbers. What really makes an all-time great is how much fear that person strikes in another driver in the rearview mirror with 5 laps to go. And that makes Jimmy Johnson an all-time great.
Not the truth.
That's pretty cool. And go ahead.
For anybody that drove up behind Dale Earnhardt Sr. with that big truck mirror that he used in his car, that speaks volumes.
Yeah. And my case against is just what Ray talked about before. You can lose 100 points in these races in a blink of an eye. You get a flat tire at Texas with 15 to go. With the free pass system and the wave arounds and everything else, there are so many cars finishing on the lead lap now. Any little hiccup late in a race is very costly. So you got to run the races, you got to play the whole thing out before you can hand them the trophy. Still to come on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable, Kyle got back to being king of the Nationwide Series Friday night. We'll look back through the Charlotte 300-miler shortly. But up next, Martinsville, the next stop for the Sprint Cup Tour. Why the shortest track on the circuit is also one of the toughest. That's next on the Monday Roundtable. ESPN's Monday Night Football, the big game between the top 2 teams in the AFC West, the Denver Broncos and the San Diego Chargers. 8:30 Eastern Time coverage starts with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's at 7 Eastern. Broncos Chargers tonight.
You got to do everything right when you come to Martinsville. There's not much question about that. Everybody tightening the seat belts. Fans are standing on their feet, want to see this finish here at Martinsville. Look out, here goes Denny Hamlin immediately diving under Jimmy Johnson.
What a move by Denny Hamlin, and it's going to give Denny Hamlin the lead out of turn 4. It's Hamlin and Johnson, 1 and 2. All the leaders tangle. Johnson to the inside of Hamlin. He bangs it. They both save it, and Jimmy Johnson takes the lead with the bump and run in turn 3.
The Hendrick domination continues at Martinsville Speedway as Jimmy Johnson wins for the 6th time here at Martinsville.
Imagine this, Jimmy Johnson has an incredible record at Martinsville. 6 wins in 15 tries, 14 top 10s in 15 tries. That's amazing. Jeff Gordon leads all active drivers with 7 Martinsville wins. Off to Martinsville for chase race number 6. It's the smallest track on the circuit. It may be one of the toughest. Why?
Throw away the brakes, throw away all that stuff, traction. You know, one of the things I think we're starting to see with this car is NASCAR has a gear rule. And these guys are making these cars go faster. We saw some blown engines at Charlotte, and I think it's because the speeds were way up. Temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler. Turn a lot of RPM at Martinsville, and I think that lap times are going to be lower, RPM is going to be higher, and I think it's going to be tougher on motors this week.
Yeah, and it's certainly a different discipline. At Martinsville, you have to chip away, take a little bit. What you can do in one corner at Charlotte, you know, catch, get alongside, and pass a car, might take 5 or even 10 laps at Martinsville. If you push too hard, slide up the racetrack, heat up the right front, you're going to pay for it until you get to the next stop. You can't overheat any of the tires because you need them, not only to get in the corner, but to get off the corner.
It's also a wild card. It's not a wild card like Talladega is, but it's so physical out there. It's one of the most physical tracks we have, so there are things that certainly are out of your control that could play in to your ultimate outcome.
Mistake on pit road late.
Real double foul restarts. This is the first time at Martinsville. It used to be lap cars inside, you know, lead lap cars outside. every restart side by sides for a spot this time, guys.
I can't wait.
Yeah, watch the curb on the inside, watch the guy. Oh, this could be a lot of fun. That is Martinsville this Sunday for Chase race number 6. Up next, NASCAR Nationwide Series highlights and a few other assorted items as we wrap up the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable.
NASCAR Now, presented by The Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of The Home Depot.
Now on ESPN.com, Terry Blunt's Monday Rundown has the biggest surprises and non-surprises of the chase, plus a review of Kyle Busch's Nationwide Series win and reasserting his authority in that championship. Speaking of the Nationwide Series, Friday night, Charlotte, 300-miler, Carl Edwards on the pole, trying to close in on Kyle Busch for the championship. Edwards never led a lap and finished 5th. A lot of wrecks in this one. Lap 13, Ricky Stenhouse going to take a hard shot here in that 17. Bang. Reed Sorensen had to check up in front of him. He got hit from behind by Jason Keller. Fortunately, was okay. More big trouble. David Gilliland in the 1 makes it 4 wide on fresh tires.
You can't park 4 cars in turn 1.
Well, they tried. They parked a couple of them anyway. Stephen Wallace with some damage there. And Kevin Hamlin in that one. Stephen not happy, although he did apologize for that in his interview afterwards, saying that was childish of him. More trouble. Jason Leffler and Eric Darnell, and they're not done wrecking yet.
Yeah, and this is just a product of the speeds and the cold temps, but I thought we might see more of that on the Cup side, and we didn't.
Darnell okay after a hard shot to the driver's side door. Joey Logano damaged in that one. They made 8 pit stops to make repairs under the caution. Kyle Busch, with halfway and rain both approaching, went by Jeff Burton and opened up a pretty big lead. Meantime, Logano would come all the way back to 7th after those 8 pit stops or repairs. Then a piece of metal starts dragging on the track, and NASCAR has to black flag him. He'd finish 14th. Rain held off. It was all Kyle Busch, led 137 of the 200 laps for his 7th win of the year, which moved him to 4th on the all-time Nationwide Series win list. Kyle now up by 195 points with 4 races to go. Nationwide Series in Memphis, Saturday afternoon at 3 on ESPN2. And congratulations to the newest member of the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Well deserved, young man. Well deserved.
Thank you. It was really neat for me, not just because of the honor I got, but got inducted with A.J. Foyt, Joe. So just to be on the same program as A.J. Foyt was enough for me.
How cool is that? Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What do you got? Final thoughts?
Good luck. My friend Ray Evernham's going to race at Wall Stadium this week, right?
Well, all these things. Yeah, I'm actually going to retire from modified. It'll be my last ride in a modified at Wall Stadium this week.
And I wanted to crew chief for you one race.
Come on. And spot.
If it's a tire wear track, I'll say, Ray, come in. We're taking fuel only.
Yeah, I don't want him to be a crew chief. What do you got?
I think that it's time to hand that trophy on over to Johnson and Knaus because they're just unbelievable. Of course, 4 straights and everything.
Make them race for it. Make them race for it. They certainly are getting the job done, though. ABC, Sunday afternoon, 1 Eastern, Chase race number 6 from Martinsville. We'll look for you then.